Hi, I'm Kevin Kawari, and welcome to another edition of Family Safety 123. Well, summertime is a beautiful time to spend outdoors with your family, but when you're outside with your little ones, it really makes good sense to know what to do if someone gets stung or bitten by an insect. Better yet is to avoid being stung in the first place. Now, I've invited Dr. James Beckerman here to talk about insect bites and what to do in case your child gets stung by an insect. Now, spring and summer, doctor, are really the times to be especially aware of this, right?
Sure. It's light out later, your kids are outside later, and if they're outside, that means the insects and bugs are outside too. So it's the time to really be concerned about bug bites.
So, doctor, I know in our yard you never know what you're going to find. So are there certain bugs and insects that we should really be specifically looking for?
Sure. The good news, most insect bites and spider bites aren't that big of a deal, but some of them can cause allergic reactions or have poisonous venom. Things like bees or wasps, yellow jackets, things like that. And then there are the mosquitoes and ticks whose bites don't hurt as much, but they can actually cause diseases like Lyme disease or Rocky Mountain spotted fever, West Nile virus, things like that. So you really want to be careful around those kinds of bugs.
Well, doctor, I know my daughter's always on the lookout for bugs and insects in our yard. She does not want to get bitten by anything.
That's right. And for some people, there will actually be life-threatening consequences to being bit. I know if one of my boys gets stung by a bee, I'll know about it. It's going to hurt a lot. But for other insects like mosquitoes or ticks, the symptoms might not be as significant, at least initially. So you really have to be on the lookout for these kinds of insects, particularly ticks, ones that you can remove.
Doctor, avoiding these kinds of problems in the first place would be best. What can parents do to prevent insect bites and stings?
There are a lot of great little tricks to try to prevent them from occurring in the first place. A good place to start is with your doors and windows. Keep them closed, but if you keep them open in the nice weather, put screens on them so that insects can't get inside.
There are a lot of insect repellents on the market. What about those? Do those work?
They're very effective. And if you're concerned about spraying them directly on your children's skin, you can just spray it on their clothing and it should work just as effectively. Look on the product packaging for the ones that say that they're safe for kids. Ones with less than 10% DEET are generally good, and also ones that have citronella oil or soybean oil. Those are really effective as well.
And doctor, I hear the color of your clothing can actually make a difference.
That's right. Insects really like dark colors. So dress your kids in light colors, and also things like perfume or jewelry or even scented lotions can actually attract insects. So try to avoid those outside. And another good trick is that if your kids are playing in areas with tall grass or other areas where you know that there are going to be a lot of bugs around, if you actually tuck their pants into their socks, you can also avoid a lot of insect bites that way too.
So doctor, what about Lyme disease? Are there certain things we should be doing to avoid problems with that? I know ticks can be a carrier, right?
That's right. And unlike bee stings, which are very painful, if a tick bites you, it might be just a little scratch or just a little feeling, and then the kid will go on playing. So you have to keep in mind that if you're camping or hiking or in areas that there may be a higher risk of there being ticks, when you get home, you really have to check your child head to toe for ticks. And that's looking in the scalp or behind the ears, underneath the arms, skin folds, behind the knees, anywhere where you think a tick could hide. And if you find a tick, get a pair of tweezers and gently pull it off.
I know when our family's out camping or just outside in general, there are so many things to be careful about. What other precautions should we be taking?
Sure. Well, if your kids are playing outside, they're going to get thirsty. And so rather than giving them a can or a bottle where insects can hide inside, give them cups to drink out of. And also, insects are actually attracted to sugar, so really avoid giving sweetened beverages when you're outside. Another good trick is looking for things like anthills, wasp nests, bees nests, hives, places where you know insects are going to be congregating. Make sure your kids know what those look like too and how to avoid them. And finally, something that a lot of people don't think about is standing water. Now, standing water, when it stagnates, can actually be a breeding ground for mosquitoes. And so, especially after a hard rain, make sure you empty all containers outside and make sure there's no standing water so that mosquitoes won't breed in that area.
West Nile virus, is that the concern there?
That's one of them, absolutely.
So doctor, some of these things can get very serious. In fact, you mentioned life-threatening situations. As a parent, what should I be aware of?
If a child has an allergy to the venom from a bee or wasp or other insect that stings, they can stop breathing and have life-threatening consequences.
Yeah, so very serious. And how will I know that that's happening?
It happens quickly, usually within about 30 minutes. The symptoms can start very subtly with a rash or hives or even just kind of a tickling sensation on the skin. But eventually, the child will start to experience some discomfort in the back of the throat, which can actually close up and very seriously impair breathing.
And in that case, what do you do?
You got to call 911 immediately and get medical attention on the spot.
Now, you can actually carry medications to treat these kinds of things. How does that work?
Most people carry something called epinephrine, also called adrenaline, and it's actually in an injectable pen. And that's what delivers the most effect, especially during these life-threatening situations. And a lot of kids will be treated with corticosteroids or antihistamines for some of the other symptoms as well. And the key thing about this is if your child needs an epinephrine pen or other medications, any adult caring for the child needs to know where these medications are and how to use them.
Crucial that whoever is in charge of the child knows how to use these things, but how do you get them in the first place?
They're all from prescriptions. And so if your child has these reactions, then the pediatrician or other physician should be prescribing medication.
Dr. James Beckerman, some great advice. Thank you so much for being with us. So
pleasure.
Let's get to the three main points here. Number one, use screens on your doors and windows to keep insects out. Number two, use insect repellents. And number three, know what to do if your child has serious reactions to bites and stings. So if you're ever unsure of what to do in the case of a bite or sting, contact your emergency services at 911 or Poison Help. Take care and be safe.